Hey, One Hope. I'm really missing all of you and your beautiful faces, and I hope that you are finding rest and peace in this time at home with your families. I wanted us to focus on meditation. So last week we talked about fasting, and we talked about giving up some of the things that we indulge in. And I wanted to challenge you to take some time to reflect and really dig into what Christ is trying to tell you during this time. And I thought maybe I could suggest another way to equip you with some peace. And meditation is another discipline that can be partnered with fasting. And it's a way to pray, and it's a way to calm our bodies and our minds in order to be available to what God is trying to tell us. And I think a lot of times we forget that we're living in a culture in the United States that's just go, go, go. And we have schedules, and we have planners, and we have calendars, and we have events that we do. And I think it's an awesome opportunity during this time to just breathe and to reflect. And what does that really mean, right? What does it mean to reflect? What does it mean to meditate? And whenever I think about meditation in the Christian worldview, I think about what Christ says when he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane right before he is arrested and betrayed and he's hung on the cross. And this fits very well with the Lenten season, right? Because we are working towards the cross. We're working towards Easter. And in Matthew chapter 26, starting in verse 36, it says, "Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, 'Sit here while I go over there and pray.' He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, 'My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me.' Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, 'My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will.'" And in this moment, Christ is experiencing a real human moment. He is full of sorrow, and he is overcome, and he's troubled. But what does he choose to do? He chooses to lay down and to pray, and to take a moment to be with God, to be with his Father. And that's my first thought during this time when we're feeling overwhelmed and we're feeling scared, and maybe we're feeling anxiety, or we're feeling troubled, or maybe we're feeling depression, or maybe there's things in our life that we never faced, and now they're smacking us in the face. And how do we handle that? What do we do? And I think that Christ is actually giving us a tool. Right before he's arrested, he's showing us what we should do. He's saying, go to the garden, cry out to your Father, take the people that you trust with you, and be silent. And that's really hard for me, and that's hard for a lot of us when we're used to this culture, right? When we're used to just going and having the next thing to do. And trust me, I'm the queen of this. I am in graduate school, and I'm involved in the church, and I'm always going, always doing, always looking at my calendar. And throughout this time, there's been moments where I've been given the space to be still. And as scary as that space is, because when we're still, God is usually pretty loud, right? He usually has something to show us. And going back to A Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster and leaning into some more of those ideas, he says, Christian meditation, very simply, is the ability to hear God's voice and obey his word. It is simple. He's saying it's not that complicated. He goes further, and he actually quotes Frederick W. Faber, who says, "Only to sit and think of God, oh, what a joy it is, to think the thought, to breathe the name, earth has no higher bliss." So I think meditation is intimidating to us because it's something unknown and maybe it seems kind of scary. Do we need to participate in some type of yoga pose? Do we need to, listen to music? But really, it can be whatever you're comfortable with. And during this time when we're all on social media and we're all fearful and we're crying out in this sorrow like Jesus did in the garden, be still. Time your phone for 5 minutes and just breathe. And I'm actually studying my master's in social work right now with a concentration in mental health. And this is something we talk about all the time, is mindfulness. Do you know that when you take time to be mindful, when you just simply take the time to breathe, what that does for your mind, for your body, for your spirit, it does wonders. If you have some trauma that you haven't worked through, if this time is bringing up those anxieties, just breathing and being still and taking that moment is something good for your physical health, but also your spiritual health. So I encourage you, while you're fasting and while you're leaning in to this season of Lent and thinking about traveling with Christ to the cross, take some time to be still. It might be awkward, it might be uncomfortable, and your mind might roam. But bring yourself back. Sometimes when I first started doing this meditation, this prayer and meditation exercise, I would do a breath prayer. And a breath prayer is simply this. It's a prayer you can do in one breath. And so when your mind starts to wander and it starts to be confused, bring yourself back through a breath prayer. One of the famous breath prayers is, Abba, I belong to you. But the one I always say is, darkness isn't dark to you. And I think one that maybe we could all practice while we're sitting in silence and our thoughts are racing, we can just say, God, I trust you. So please, One Hope, and whoever else may be watching this video, just bask in the glory of God. And it's okay to be sorrowful and to be troubled, but just let's go back to Matthew chapter 26 and see what Christ is telling us to do. To lay ourselves down, to pray, and to just cry out and be still. Thank you, One Hope, and I hope that you are finding joy. I'll talk to you soon.